The noise of clinking glasses and soft chatter filled the upscale Manhattan restaurant, but for Henry Caldwell, it was just a backdrop to his high-stakes business deal. At 65, with short gray hair and a tailored suit that screamed wealth, Henry sat across from Marcus Reed, his rival whose smile hit a sharp edge. They were there to finalize a merger that would hand over Henry's company, a bitter defeat after years of fierce competition. Marcus leaned forward, swirling his whiskey, and asked if everything was ready on Henry's end. Henry glanced at his watch, an old Rolex from better days, and said he was still waiting for his water, his voice sharp. Every second mattered tonight, and the empty glass on the table felt like a personal insult. He spotted a young waitress hurrying toward them, her uniform neat but her face tense. Lily Harper, though Henry didn't know her name, felt her heart pound. She was late after oversleeping from a long shift to pay for college, and this table was the one her manager had warned her about. Lily set the glass down carefully and apologized, her voice steady despite her nerves. She was in her mid-20s, with tired eyes from juggling school and work. Henry didn't look at her. He said it took her long enough, his tone cold, and that he'd been sitting there parched. Marcus watched with a faint grin, sipping his drink. Lily said it wouldn't happen again, her cheeks red. Henry snapped that her delay could cost millions in his world and asked if she thought apologies fixed failure. Eyes from nearby tables turned their way. He called for the manager, Mr. Ellis, who rushed over, looking nervous. Henry told him to fire Lily, his voice like ice. Lily's stomach sank. This job paid for her classes and kept a roof over her and her little brother's heads. She pleaded, saying it was just a mistake. Henry leaned in and said her mistakes weren't his problem, waving her away. But as Lily turned to leave, a glint caught Henry's eye. Around her neck was a silver star pendant, etched with a tiny pattern he'd never forget. His breath stopped. He'd had it made in Paris for his daughter Emma's 18th birthday, 10 years ago, before she vanished in a car crash, or so he'd been told. The world seemed to freeze. He asked where she got the necklace, his voice tight. Lily touched the pendant, her lifeline through tough years, and said it was a gift from someone she helped long ago. Marcus shifted, saying it was just jewelry, but Henry ignored him, demanding to know who gave it to her. Lily hesitated, with Mr. Ellis still hovering. She explained that 10 years ago, at Grand Central Station, she met a scared girl her age while waiting for a train. The girl's clothes were torn, and she looked terrified. Lily shared her food and sat with her. The girl didn't say much, just that she was escaping something bad. Before boarding her train, she gave Lily the necklace as thanks for her kindness and left. Henry's hands shook. That sounded like Emma, who'd disappeared after that crash, leaving only a wrecked car and no body. He'd always doubted the story. He asked what the girl looked like. Lily described her: dark hair, green eyes, a small scar on her chin, and a comment about cages trapping you even if they looked nice. Henry's heart raced. Emma had that scar from a childhood fall, and she'd called his protective life a gilded cage. He showed Lily a photo of Emma on his phone and asked if it was her. Lily gasped, saying yes, and asked who she was to him. Henry whispered that Emma was his daughter, thought dead for a decade. Marcus coughed, calling it a stretch, but Henry wasn't listening. The merger didn't matter now. He needed more from Lily, every detail. She glanced at Mr. Ellis, who nodded, sensing the shift. She sat at the table's edge, her shift forgotten, and said it was late at night. The girl took a westbound train, maybe to Chicago, and seemed alone, running from someone dangerous. Henry's mind spun. 10 years ago, Marcus's nephew, Victor, had stalked Emma after a short romance, sending threats Henry had brushed off. Could she have faked the crash to escape? He asked if she named anyone chasing her. Lily shook her head, saying no names, just fear. Henry slid a business card to her, asking her to come to his office tomorrow. He had an investigator to dig into this. Lily took the card, saying she'd help for the girl's sake. Marcus reminded Henry about their deal, but Henry stood, saying not tonight, this changes everything. The next morning, in his penthouse office overlooking the city, Henry met Tom Vargas, his investigator, a tough ex-cop in his 50s. Henry explained Lily's story and the necklace, urging Tom to check the timeline from 10 years ago. Tom agreed to pull station footage and train records, noting Emma might have used cash to stay hidden. Lily arrived, looking out of place in casual clothes, the necklace still on. Henry asked her to repeat the story. She described the girl's torn but fancy backpack, her constant watch-checking, like she was racing time. Tom asked about accents or other marks, but Lily said nothing stood out. Henry mentioned Victor, Marcus's nephew, who'd been trouble before his overdose years ago. Tom nodded, recalling rumors of stalking cover-ups. Henry's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus about the deal, but he ignored it. Tom's assistant burst in with news of Grand Central footage showing two women matching Lily's story. They watched the grainy video, young Lily sharing food with a tense girl who was Emma. She boarded a train, but a man in a coat followed her from a distance. Henry asked who he was, his voice sharp. Tom said he looked like a professional tail and would run facial recognition. Lily said that must be why the girl was scared. Henry's anger grew. Marcus might have known Emma was alive, maybe sent someone after her. He told Tom to dig into Marcus and Victor's past. As Tom left to follow leads, Henry and Lily stayed, the weight of the truth settling in. Henry thanked her for giving him hope, asking why she kept the necklace. Lily said it reminded her kindness matters, having grown up in foster care after losing her parents. She mentioned her brother, Noah, who kept her going. Henry smiled at the name, asking about him. Lily paused, touching the necklace, and said Noah wasn't really her brother. She found him 5 years ago, abandoned at a bus station with a note saying to keep him safe, and the same necklace around his neck. Henry froze, the pieces clicking. 5 years after Emma's trail vanished, a boy with her necklace. He asked what she meant by found. Lily's voice shook as she explained finding Noah in a carrier at the bus station, with the necklace and a note. She took him, unable to abandon him to foster care, and raised him as her brother, fudging papers. Henry's mind reeled. Could Noah be Emma's son? He started to ask, but Lily cut in, saying she knows it sounds crazy, but she loves Noah like her own. Henry stared at Lily, the weight of her words crashing over him like a wave. If Noah had the necklace and Emma had vanished 10 years ago, only to possibly have a child 5 years later, it all lined up in a way that stole his breath. He asked her to show him a photo of Noah. Lily pulled out her phone with shaking hands and scrolled to a recent picture of a curly-haired boy with bright green eyes, laughing in a park. Henry's throat tightened. Those eyes were Emma's, no doubt about it. He whispered that Noah looked just like his daughter at that age. Lily's face went pale as she realized what he meant. She asked if he thought Noah was Emma's son. Henry nodded, his voice hoarse, saying it had to be, the timeline fit, and the necklace proved it. He needed to confirm everything, starting now. Tom returned just then, carrying a tablet with more data. He saw their tense faces and asked what he'd missed. Henry explained Lily's story about finding Noah abandoned with the necklace 5 years ago. Tom whistled low, saying that changed the game, and suggested they run DNA tests to be sure, but first, they should follow Emma's trail from the train station. Lily agreed, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. She said she'd do anything to help, but worried about what this meant for Noah. Henry assured her they'd handle it carefully. No one would take the boy away. He told Tom to prioritize tracing the man from the footage and any links to Marcus. Tom tapped his tablet, saying the facial recognition had a hit. The guy was Frank Doyle, a private eye with a sketchy record, often hired for off-the-books jobs. And his payments traced back to a shell company tied to Marcus Reed's firm. The office felt charged as Tom laid out the evidence. Doyle had been on Marcus's payroll around the time of Emma's disappearance, and his travel records showed trips west after that train date. Henry's anger boiled. He said Marcus must have suspected Emma faked the crash and sent Doyle to track her down. Why, he demanded. Tom suggested it could be tied to Victor's obsession. Maybe Emma knew too much about Victor's dark side, like abuse or crimes Marcus covered up. Lily listened, horrified, and asked if that meant Emma was running from Marcus's family all along. Henry confirmed it, regretting how he'd downplayed Emma's fears back then, thinking it was just young love gone wrong. Now, it looked like Marcus had been protecting his nephew at any cost, even if it meant hounding Emma into hiding. They decided to follow the lead west. Tom booked flights to Chicago that afternoon, saying they could retrace Doyle's steps from there. Henry insisted Lily come along, since she was the last to see Emma alive. She hesitated, mentioning Noah and her classes, but Henry offered to cover childcare and any lost wages. She agreed, seeing the desperation in his eyes. On the plane, Henry sat quietly, staring out the window, while Tom worked on his laptop. Lily broke the silence, asking Henry about Emma, what she was like. He smiled faintly, saying she was fierce and kind, always helping strays, much like Lily had helped her. But he'd been too busy building his empire to notice her unhappiness. Lily shared her own past, how finding Noah gave her purpose after years of loneliness in foster care. Henry nodded, saying fate had brought them together for a reason. In Chicago, they rented a car and drove to motels Doyle had charged on his card 10 years back. At one rundown place, the elderly clerk remembered a nervous young woman matching Emma's description, who paid cash and left quickly. Tom pressed for more, and the clerk mentioned she'd asked about buses to smaller towns further west. They followed that thread to a bus depot, where old logs showed a ticket to a quiet spot in rural Iowa called Willow Bend. Henry's hope flickered. This could be where Emma settled. On the drive there, Tom got a call from his team back home. They'd hacked into old emails from Marcus's company, revealing messages to Doyle about keeping tabs on the girl and making sure she stays quiet about Victor. Lily gasped, saying it was proof Marcus was involved. Henry gripped the wheel tighter, vowing to make him pay. Willow Bend was a sleepy town with rolling fields and a main street lined with shops. They started at the local library, showing Emma's photo to the librarian, a warm woman in her 60s named Clara. She recognized her right away, calling her Sarah Mills, who'd worked there part-time about 9 years ago. Henry's heart pounded as Clara explained Sarah kept to herself, read a lot, and seemed sad but determined. She'd left after a couple years, saying she needed a fresh start further out. But Clara remembered Sarah had a boyfriend briefly, a local guy who skipped town around the same time. Tom noted that down, suspecting the boyfriend might be Noah's father. Lily asked if Sarah ever mentioned family or danger. Clara shook her head, but recalled Sarah once confided about escaping a controlling life back east. Their next stop was the town hall for records. Tom charmed the clerk into pulling marriage or birth certificates. Nothing on marriage, but 5 years ago, a birth record for a boy named Noah Mills, mother Sarah Mills, father unknown. Henry sank into a chair, overwhelmed. It was real. Noah was his grandson. Lily touched his arm, saying Emma must have wanted a simple life for her child. But Clara had mentioned Sarah got sick later, pneumonia that hit hard. They drove to the small cemetery on the town's edge. There, under an oak tree, was a modest headstone. Sarah Mills, beloved mother, gone too soon 5 years back. Henry knelt, tracing the name, tears falling freely. He whispered apologies to Emma for failing her, for not seeing the cage he'd built. Lily stood nearby, wiping her own eyes, and said Emma had found peace here, away from the chaos. Tom, ever practical, said they needed to confirm if Marcus's man Doyle had reached this far. Back at their motel, Tom's team sent more files. Doyle's reports to Marcus stopped abruptly around Emma's death, with one last note about target located, but complications. Henry exploded, saying Marcus had hounded her to her grave, maybe even scared her from seeking help. Lily suggested confronting Marcus now, with the evidence. Henry agreed, but first he wanted to process this. That night, over diner food, he thanked Lily again, saying without her, he'd never have known about Emma's life or Noah. She smiled, saying Noah was the best part of her world, and if he was family, they'd figure it out together. The flight back to New York was tense. Henry planned his moves, DNA test for confirmation, then dismantle Marcus. At his office, the test results came fast. Noah was indeed Emma's son, Henry's grandson. Lily held Noah's hand as they waited, the boy shy but curious. Henry knelt to his level, seeing Emma in every feature. He said hello, his voice soft, and Noah asked if he was a friend of Lily's. Henry chuckled, saying something like that. Lily explained gently that Henry was family, Noah's grandpa. The boy's eyes lit up, hugging Henry awkwardly. It broke the last wall in Henry's heart. With proof in hand, Henry called Marcus to his penthouse. Marcus arrived smug, thinking it was about the merger. Henry laid it out cold: the stalking, Doyle's role, how it led to Emma's isolation and death. Marcus denied at first, but the files Tom presented cracked him. He admitted protecting Victor, who'd been violent, and feared Emma exposing family secrets that could ruin his business. The merger was leverage to keep Henry quiet. Henry ended the deal on the spot and said he'd go public with everything, watching Marcus deflate. Later, at Lily's small apartment, Henry sat with her and Noah. He said he wouldn't press charges for her taking Noah. Instead, he was grateful she'd saved him from the system. Lily cried, relieved. Henry offered to pay for her education, set up a trust for Noah, and legally adopt him while naming Lily as guardian. They'd be family now. Noah played nearby, the necklace around his neck catching the light. Henry watched, feeling redemption in the boy's laugh. As weeks passed, Henry moved to a house with a yard, learning to be a grandfather, reading stories, playing catch. Lily finished her degree, starting work helping kids like she dreamed. One evening, Henry and Lily talked over coffee. He said the necklace had brought them full circle, turning his worst moment into his best. Lily agreed, saying kindness had a way of coming back. Henry paused mid-sentence, looking at Noah drawing at the table, and asked Lily if she thought Emma would be proud. Lily nodded slowly, her eyes on Noah too. She said yes, Emma would be proud of how they'd turned pain into something good. Henry felt a warmth he hadn't known in years, the kind that came from real connection, not boardroom wins. Over the next months, their lives wove together. Henry sold off parts of his company, stepping back from the grind that had blinded him to Emma's struggles. He focused on Noah, taking him to parks, teaching him to ride a bike, simple things he'd missed with his daughter. Lily watched it unfold, grateful but cautious at first. She finished her social work degree with Henry's support, landing a job at a nonprofit helping foster kids. Noah thrived, calling Henry Grandpa without hesitation, his laughter filling the new house Henry bought in the suburbs, complete with a swing set and room for family dinners. One crisp fall day, Henry invited Lily and Noah for a walk in Central Park. The leaves crunched under their feet as Noah ran ahead, chasing pigeons. Henry stopped at a bench, the same spot where he'd sometimes sat alone after Emma's disappearance, staring at nothing. He turned to Lily and said he owed her everything. Without her kindness to Emma that night, and then to Noah, his life would still be empty. Lily blushed, saying she was just doing what felt right, but Henry shook his head. He called her the real hero, someone who chose compassion when the world was hard. He pulled out a small box and handed it to her. Inside was a matching silver star pendant, engraved with, "For the one who brought light back." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she put it on, the two necklaces now linking them all. Marcus's downfall came swiftly. Henry leaked the evidence to the press, not for revenge, but to expose the truth. Stories broke about the stalking, the cover-ups, and how it led to a young woman's tragic end. Marcus's company tanked, lawsuits piled up, and he faded from the spotlight, a broken man facing charges. Henry felt no joy in it, just closure. He set up a foundation in Emma's name, funding programs for runaway teens and stalking victims, with Lily on the board. She brought real insight, drawing from her own life and Emma's story. At the foundation's launch event, Henry spoke publicly for the first time about his daughter, his voice steady as he shared how one act of kindness had saved his family. He pointed to Lily in the crowd, calling her the heart of it all, and the room applauded. Noah started school that year, excelling in art like his mother had. Henry attended every parent-teacher meeting, beaming at reports of Noah's kindness to classmates. Lily dated occasionally, but her focus stayed on Noah and her work. Henry encouraged her, saying she deserved happiness too. One evening, as they tucked Noah in, reading a story about adventures and homecomings, Henry looked at Lily and said she'd given him a second chance at being a father, a grandfather. She smiled, saying they'd all saved each other. Noah yawned and asked if Grandpa would stay for breakfast tomorrow. Henry laughed, saying of course, every day if he could. The necklace became a family heirloom, passed around during stories of Emma. Noah wore it sometimes, asking questions about his mom. Henry answered honestly, painting her as brave and loving, not hiding the pain. Lily added her part, how a chance meeting at a station changed everything. As time passed, Henry's health slowed him, but he found peace in the family he'd built. On Noah's 10th birthday, they gathered at the house, cake and balloons everywhere. Henry watched Lily help Noah blow out candles, her laughter mixing with the boys. He raised a toast, his voice thick, to Lily, the waitress who became family, the woman whose heart mended his. Everyone cheered, and in that moment, Henry knew true wealth wasn't in deals or dollars, but in the bonds forged from forgiveness and love. Lily's work at the nonprofit grew, her story inspiring donors and clients alike. She spoke at events, sharing how one small act rippled into redemption. Henry funded expansions, but let her lead, respecting her strength. Noah drew pictures of their family, including a starry sky for Emma watching over them. One quiet night, Henry sat with Lily on the porch, stars above. He said looking back, that yell in the restaurant was his lowest point, born from grief he'd buried. Lily nodded, saying it led to their best. He appreciated her then, not just for saving Noah, but for seeing past his anger to the hurt man beneath. She squeezed his hand, saying that's what family does. Years later, as Henry grew frail, Noah, now a teen, helped around the house, his green eyes full of Emma's spirit. Lily cared for Henry, their bond unbreakable. At his bedside one day, Henry whispered thanks again, saying she'd transformed his life. Lily held his hand, saying he'd done the same for her and Noah. He passed peacefully, leaving a legacy of love. At the funeral, Lily spoke, honoring the man who learned humility through loss. Noah stood tall, wearing the necklace, proud of his grandpa. In the end, the story wasn't about a billionaire's fall or rise, but about recognizing the quiet heroes like Lily, whose everyday kindness sparked profound change. Her appreciation came not in words, but in the family that endured, a testament to second chances and the power of seeing each other truly. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a good twist, and subscribe for more cinematic tales that hit you right in the heart. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from.